How the heck's it going, man?
Hey, it's a beautiful California afternoon, 75 and sunny. I can't complain.
So this is where, so we're in the Midwest here in Kansas City. So this is always when I have conversations with artists that live in California, and I always wind up being jealous of the weather no matter what time of year, because today it's 90 here. So we got a little warm. You guys, it's just, you got it made year round. What can you say?
Well, yeah, pretty close. I mean, it gets hot where I live, man. It gets just as hot as Vegas out here. So we're just having a nice cool spell right now. It's great.
Well, and for you, before we kind of get into the specifics, I mean, this last year, just kind of take us through it for you, because obviously Y&T is a touring entity that, and we'll get into this a little bit later. Actually, Y&T is the last concert I've been to back in March of 2020. Can you believe that?
Oh, wow.
Kansas City here. And I think you guys maybe did another couple shows after that and it was over, which is crazy. So,
Yeah.
what's this last year been like for you? Do you feel like that this is in a roundabout way been a productive time for you to be able to kind of work on your music and work on this EP and stuff?
Absolutely. I was just hoping things would have gotten back to normal, normal life for us to go out and work sooner, obviously. But so I started doing these live streams, doing acoustic solo live streams, which were a trip, very weird to do because there's no audience in front of you, there's no reaction, there's no energy, there's no connection. So, but I've done a few of those and I've learned to enjoy them, and I have fun setting everything up and getting cameras all set up. I'm into production and things like that. But then I started thinking, well, I have some music that I want to do, and I've got some songs sitting here. Why don't I just get them recorded, see how they come out, So that's basically how it started. And I released Insanity, which was my first single back in September of 2020. Which Frank Hannon had played guitar on as well. And then from there, I just started getting on a roll, and I had 4 songs that were already pushed out, to the world there. So I just basically just compiled them and put them in a form of an EP, released it as a physical product, CD, and that's the EP. So there's going to be more to come. I've got the new single coming out, and which is actually out now. I just threw it up on the website. But,
yes.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. Live for Today is that single. And to me, as I was just listening to it right before you came on, I mean, this is like the perfect melodic summer song to me. It's just got that summer rock element, don't you think? I mean, I really enjoyed it. Really good hooks. It just kind of has that summer vibe that I think we've kind of been missing out on. And now that the summer's back, things are, touring's kind of coming back. It's just a good positive message, I think, man. It's a really good song.
Well, I really appreciate that, man. It's great to get some unbiased feedback on this music, because this is the first time that I've shown myself as a solo artist.
Yeah.
And to just share my music with people. I'm not after a contrived sound or anything. It's just what's just coming out. It's just whatever's, as I've been saying, if my antenna is up and I'm receiving something coming in, man, then it's going right back out, and that's just how it is. So I'm thankful for that. That it's even, the ideas and potential songs are there. It's a good time.
I think that it's been, only out a very short amount of time, but from Insanity to this, I think the buzz is very positive, and people are kind of seeing you in a new light. I mean, you've been in Y&T now for 5 years?
Yeah, -1.
Yeah, well, right. Yes, exactly. -1 for everyone in the band, including Dave. What's this kind of journey been like for you? And do you feel now that you've been a part of Y&T that's an established act that tours, constantly, and then being able to flex your kind of solo muscle and venture into that? How do you differentiate the two? Do you get more satisfaction from kind of doing what you've done, or do you like the stability with the Y&T gig?
Well, yeah, they're 2 separate entities completely. Sure. With Y&T, it's just, it's on another level of functionality when it comes to, a band. I mean, and I love being in a band. I mean, that's really what I love about music, is playing with other people. Doing the solo thing, I'm isolated. I don't have other guys except Frank. who's, been very giving of his time, playing on a couple tracks for me. But, of course, I mean, Y&T is that's the dream. I ended up in one of my favorite bands from being, such a fan as a teenager. But with doing solo music, that's just, I've always done music and always been writing but I've just never taken the time to take it as far as I have with this music. I was in bands before Y&T, and we, did albums and things like that, which, very limited audience. It's a hard business to break, but being that, I know that just because I'm in Y&T is why I'm even getting any sort of ears on my music right now. So I'm grateful for that. And, if I had to choose at this moment right now, I would choose to get back out on the road with my favorite band, Y&T.
which is coming this summer. You guys have got some dates scheduled and you're going to get back to it. How excited. I mean, I've talked to the last few artists we've interviewed. I kind of asked the same question. Like, will you ever take being on a stage for granted again?
No, absolutely not. And that's a little bit of some lyrical content, or at least, the premise and ideas behind Live for Today was taking things for granted. We do daily. It's just human behavior, because you think there's going to be a tomorrow. And a lot of times you can be wrong, whether it's the small things or the big things. But, touring for me, man, I mean, I love being out there and I love playing live. I love playing in front of people and connecting that way. Recording is great, and being in the studio, I love that stuff. It's really a great way to spend a day, or a week or however long it's going to take. I was really hoping in this time away in this last 15 months that Y&T could have done something and put something out. And I'm really hoping and that will soon happen, once we get back together.
We'll just kind of talk about your upbringing. You're from San Jose. Y&T is a Bay Area band and everything like that. But just kind of take us through, because you're on the younger side, man. You're a young dude out there. What was kind of the scene like? You're not young.
I'm not young, man. No, I'm 52 years old.
Well, relatively speaking, okay, you're younger than Dave Miniketti. So that's what I mean.
If you want to compare it like that, I'm younger than a lot of people.
You're younger than Gene Simmons and Alice Cooper, and so that's kind of what I'm getting at. For the scene, for the band you play in, for the time they came out in the 70s, you're on the young side. But just kind of talk about kind of your upbringing into music and sort of what got you kind of got into this. I know you were a Y&T fan, but what else were you listening to growing up?
Oh man. I was, first got into Kiss. That was the gateway for me. That was, I was pushed off the cliff right there, so Kiss was the first thing. I just, I was just fully just into it, man, and then I got into Rush and then Iron Maiden. I've always been just basically a classic rock fan too, because my parents would play that stuff around the house constantly. So I was very influenced by, the Santana and Boston, Blue Oyster Cult, ELO, just all these great songs playing in the house constantly, Led Zeppelin, of course, Rolling Stones, Beatles. So that's really my background, where I came from. But, the gateway from Kiss to Aerosmith to, Rush and especially Iron Maiden for me, man, there was that point where I was just so Steve Harris, man, was just like the guy. And in my teens, I would just sit there and I was just playing the Number of the Beast record and Power Slave and all these, just trying to get the technique down, speed and everything like Steve Harris. But then, then it comes back to Phil Kennemore as well as a bass player that, Y&T was one of my favorite bands. So what I loved about Phil is in the mixes, in the songs, for the most part, on most records of the Y&T catalog, you can really hear Phil's bass. You can hear everything he's playing, and that's really cool. I was attracted to that. So I started learning a bunch of Y&T songs as a teenager too, along with the Maiden and, the Rush songs and all that. So in a way, Y&T taught me how to play music. You know, it was the influence there.
What's it been like for you being a part of this vast hard rock musical scene? The last 5-6 years, you talk about some of your favorite bands there. We've lost so many heroes of ours over the past 6-7 years. I mean, in just like 1 year's time, you know, you lose someone like Lemmy Kilmister, David Bowie passes away. We talked about Rush, and Neil Peart has died in the last year. Like, what's that like as not only a fan, but someone that's now a peer of so many of these type of musicians? I mean, this is, I guess the old adage, nothing lasts forever, rings true, but what's it like kind of for you as a fan and a musician to lose these heroes of ours?
Well, it's always shocking and unexpected, but I think for me, it's like looking in the mirror and look at your own mortality. You know,
Yeah,
your heroes are falling away, and you're next. You know, whether you want to believe it or not. And, you know, not to be a downer, but that's reality. You know, and when Prince died, that was the one that hit me the hardest, because for me, he's at the top of the heap. He's my number one. And has been since I was 16 years old. I mean, that major influence. You won't hear it in my music really, but just in the way he would approach playing all the instruments and producing his own stuff, mixing everything. Very hands-on guy. When it came to the studio, you know, he would lock himself up by himself, just like I do, and like, you know, thousands of other guys do, man. I mean, I'm not saying I'm anything special. I'm nowhere near a Prince, you know, but like Prince, Lenny Kravitz, but those guys, you know, the solo artist in them is what I kind of was pulling from too in doing my own music. But yeah, man, losing Prince was that one hit me hard. And you know what, another one too was Neil Peart.
of course.
Yeah,
Of course. Yeah. Do you feel a certain pressure? Maybe pressure is not the right word, but a certain, feeling that because, so many bands that we're just lucky that still exist, that you can still go see in a normal year, you can still go see Kiss at the end of their run, that you could still go see Def Leppard, and you can still go see Poison and so many of these bands. Do you feel like a pressure as someone that, wasn't, an original member of Y&T, but that's, to me, it's more about keeping this music alive now than ever, because bands just don't have their original members. That's just not how it works out 40 years, 50 years into a career. Do you feel a pressure there to keep this music alive in a way?
I don't feel it as a pressure. I feel it as an honor.
Yeah.
Because, what you just said, keeping the music alive, that's really what it's about, man. It's the legacy of Y&T. It's the legacy of Dave Miniketti and Joey, Phil, and Leonard, man. The original four that made that music together, and even the guys that came after them. I mean, the Y&T catalog, I've always said there's not one bad song. And to be able to go out and play these songs with Dave Miniketti singing them is an incredible experience every night. And that is something I don't take for granted. I mean, when I'm up there at the moment, man, and I look over and I'm watching Dave just ripping a lead on I Believe in You, and just watching people in the audience crying. I mean, this is for real. That is like something out of this world. It's dreamland stuff, as Brad Lang would say. But so it's an honor to get to play these songs.
Well, talk a little bit more about Dave, because I feel like in the annals of rock frontmen, even as guitar players, he's vastly underrated. I anybody that knows Y&T that's a fan, I mean, it's diehard. You guys have a diehard fan base that's built in, and they're going to be there, and they're going to travel. They're going to see you guys. But for those that just kind of aren't aware, I mean, just talk about Dave kind of as a person and how you view him as a musician, because I think that he's one of the more underrated frontmen, slash guitarists in the entire genre.
Yeah, he is very underrated, and it's tragic that he doesn't get more attention. I would like to think that even a guy like Prince, who was really into the Bay Area sound when he was coming up, man, I can hear some stuff in Prince's playing that Dave Miniketti does, man. I mean, that's just me talking here. I'm not stating facts, but I hear that because I know that Prince was into the Oakland sound, and that's where Y&T was from. So I'm sure he was probably aware of a Dave Miniketti, but Dave is just a chill dude, man. He's very just laid back, very giving, very just a kind guy. And it's, you know, when they say, you know, never meet your heroes, I mean, I couldn't say a bad thing about meeting my hero, Dave Miniketti. I mean, he's just a great guy, and his wife, Jill. They're just great people.
Yeah, no question about it. We've had Dave on the show before, and we were there again to cover the last show here in Kansas City, which proved to be my last concert for quite a while. So always bring the energy. Y&T, just one of the great live bands, and I think that still holds true. But you talked about the, you know, kind of jumping around here, Frank Cannon and working with him. Of course, you've you know, toured with Frank, played with Frank and his solo band, and he's helped me out here on your solo stuff. Frank is, to me, one of the most genuine, nice, helpful people that I've ever been around in this industry. Just kind of talk about your relationship with him, what it's like playing with him and everything like that. Cause he's legit, man.
Yeah. Frank is one of my favorite people on this planet, man. He's another guy that's just very giving of his time, of anything. I mean, to give the shirt off his back, you know, if you need it. He's just really, really down to earth, real person, and just so talented. I mean, the guy can play instruments all day long, and writes great songs. And, you know, obviously he's just an amazing guitar player. You know, to have Frank as a friend, first and foremost, is really cool. And then secondly, you know, is just getting to jam with him and play with him. He's so diverse. I mean, the guy can play pretty much any style on guitar, you know, and that's a lot of fun, man, because when I was playing in his solo band, you know, we did a lot of covers, but we just did some really deep cut stuff. And he's such a natural. I remember this, here's a story. When I auditioned, the first time I played with Frank in his studio at his house, it was sort of an audition thing. His drummer at the time, she had already mentioned, you know, well, hey, I think this is the guy, you know, so let's bring him down and jam. Because I think Frank was out on the road with the Scorpions, the Tesla and Scorpions at that time. So he had just got home, and then so we got together, and the first things we started playing were Rush songs. You know, wow. I think the first thing that we jumped into was Bastille Day. Ooh. Off Caress of Steel, and of course I know it, you know, and but what was crazy is that that's something that he just pulled out of his pocket. I think he just started jamming it, the riff, and I jumped in, and Courtney jumped in, and next thing you know, man, we're jamming Bastille Day. And then we end the song, and he just walks over and hangs his guitar on the wall. He goes, "I've heard enough. You're in." And that was that. So
wow.
Yeah, that was the beginning right there in 2012 when I jammed at that moment. And then further down the line, you know, and then we did the World Peace record together, and I got to co-produce on that, and I mixed on that record as well. The first 5 songs on the CD I mixed, but so he's been very trusting too with me, you know.
Yeah.
And just, again, to have him playing on these new tracks, these solo tracks with Live for Today, I had already had the song done. It was mastered, and I was just going to put it out, and there was no guitar solos on it. In fact, the middle bridge where Frank is ripping it up, it was just bass. It was just this kind of walking all over the place. And I was thinking, there's not enough songs of bass solos anymore, like Geddy Lee and Free Will, or, you know, like Vital Signs, or, you know. So I was thinking, I'm just going to leave the bass as the part, you know, and I'm just throwing it out there. I'm doing this for me anyway, whatever. And so I sent it to Frank because, you know, again, a great giving guy. He lent me a bunch of gear, a bunch of studio gear as well, to record with, because he's got some great stuff. So I was looking for a vocal chain, and he hooked me up with all this stuff. So we were talking about, hey man, he's asking me, hey, are you still using all that gear? You know, I go, yeah, in fact, I just finished the song. So I sent it over to him, and he immediately gets back and says, are you done with this thing, man? Because I'd like to put a solo on it. So he jumped on it, and I was like, hell yeah, take it, you know, run with it. He turned it around, and I was blown away with what he did, of course. And yeah. I said, now the song is done, you know, now it's done.
That is awesome. I love the collaboration there, and I want everybody to make sure they can go and find everything that you're doing. The singles Live for Today. It's featuring Frank Hannon, and I'll tell you, this is great stuff, Aaron. We're just so happy for you, and we want nothing but success. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you? I know they can get you on social media there. You have a Facebook page and things like that. What's the best way if people want to get a hold of this? I assume this is available on pretty much every digital platform if they search for Aaron Leigh, correct?
Well, the way it's playing out right now is you can go to aaronleigh.com, and I have it streaming on the player on my website right now. And there's also an option to name your price and buy a download, which would be very, very appreciated and cool. But other than that, June 25th is the actual streaming, released everywhere, June 25th to stream on all platforms.
Amazing.
Yeah, and you can find me on Facebook and Instagram, and yeah, that's it. But the main thing is aaronleigh.com, everything right there.
Perfect. Before we let you go, Aaron, we've got to hit you with our final 4 drum roll, which is 4 quick questions. You give us whatever comes to mind. Sound good?
I'm scared, man. But hit me.
That's what Eric Martin from Mr. Big said, and we've been best friends ever since. So it's going to be, I promise it'll be all right. Okay. First question, do you have a favorite venue, either as a fan growing up or as a musician to play, a favorite venue anywhere in the country that you like?
Yeah, well, the Fillmore in San Francisco, the historical Fillmore, is always an honor to play. Anyone who knows the history of that building, every legend has played there. And sometimes for weeks on end because they love the place so much. Another place is out in St. Charles, Illinois, called the Arcada Theater, which is a really cool place.
That's not too far from us here. Yeah, that's a great one. Yeah. I was going to say, San Francisco guy, I thought maybe the War Room was one, or maybe the Cow Palace. Those are some. The Warfield. Warfield. There was a Slayer DVD shot there, and I'm surprised it's still standing. But yes, the War at the Warfield from Slayer.
Yeah, well, you mentioned the Cow Palace is where I've never gotten to play the Cow Palace because it closed before I was even doing music. But anyway, I did see Y&T. It was Dio, Y&T, and Dokken at the Cow Palace on my birthday, 15 years old. And right there, that's when I saw Y&T in all its glory. And I was just a diehard fan from that point on, man.
That is a killer bill. Yeah. Would that have been around 85, 6?
83, I think.
Okay, so that was Dio's the first Dio album.
Yes, yeah.
Holy Diver. Yeah, yes. Awesome. Then that would have been right at the beginning of Dokken. Perfect. That is a tremendous answer to that. So question 2, what is the last concert that you remember attending as a fan? Mine was Y&T. What was yours, Aaron Leigh? If you can remember back that far.
Yeah, well, there was a couple. There was one when we were actually starting the tour somewhere, and we saw Saxon.
Sweet.
At some small club, because I love Saxon. I grew up on that stuff too, man. And Nigel, the drummer, we become friends, and he's really, really nice, really cool dude. So I remember seeing Saxon, and then Rival Sons here in town, and down in Sacramento, I went and saw Rival Sons, and that was pretty incredible.
Awesome.
Too.
I love them. What is the first album that you remember either buying with your own money or stealing from the store?
I pulled weeds in my backyard for 2 weeks when I was around 10, I think it was. And my mom took me to Tower Records, and I got to get Kiss Alive 2.
Alive 2. Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting because this might have to be a whole other podcast another day, but Alive versus Alive 2. I'm an Alive 2 guy. Actually, don't kill me, but I actually love Kiss Alive 3. That was my first Alive that I bought, was Alive 3, because I'm only 37. I had to kind of catch up on Kiss as a young man. I certainly did, but that was my first one. But I love Alive 2 even more than Alive 1.
Yeah, well, they were all redone in the studio, as we now know.
Of course.
But I don't even care about that, man. It's the vibe and it's the nostalgia of it for me now, looking back on it, and the feeling I would get from putting those records on as a kid, man.
That's awesome.
And Kiss Alive 2, man, especially side 4, man, with the so-called studio cuts, love those songs.
Rocket Ride.
Yeah, Larger Than Life, man.
Oh, that's great stuff. Good answer there. let's see what during, last year and a half has been kind of crazy, as we know. What show or shows have you managed to catch up on streaming or anything like that? Are there any shows that you watched during that time that are noteworthy?
Oh man, God, so much. As most, probably almost 95% of America, that's all we were doing is streaming TV.
Yeah.
Man. But I went on a roll, and I'm still. It's a constant thing. Is Friends, man.
Oh God, I love Friends. Did you watch that reunion deal?
Yes.
A little teary eyed for me a couple times. So.
Yeah. Again, a little nostalgia there. When you think where you were at the time. When that came out.
And
but
for you, you're like right in that, like you could have been a friend. You're like right in that age group.
Yeah.
You grew up,
exactly.
you like your adult life sort of mirrored
what
they were doing. That's kind of cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Aaron, great stuff, man. Cannot thank you enough. Hope everybody on June 25th will be ready for the streaming. Go to the website, aaronleigh.com, and you can go ahead and throw some money Aaron's way to hear the new single, which is tremendous. Aaron, man, thank you so much. It's been a true honor. Let's do it again. And maybe my next concert will be Y&T, and we'll kind of go full circle on this. Who knows?
I'm looking forward to it, Clint. Thank you so much for your time, man.
You bet, brother. Thanks so much.
Peace out.